Tonight's story is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction.
Who's gone off? Today we are canceling the apocalypse!
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet.
And this is?
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Houston, we have a problem.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Now, where was I?
Welcome to episode 129 of the BlokeBusters podcast. I'm Paul, and today we're going to be talking about Psycho Goreman, and everyone wondering, what the hell, Psycho Goreman? Well, you're about to find out. This time around, I figured, why the hell not go back to a tried and tested guest of the podcast? I figured B-Rob would be the best one to come on. How you doing, sir?
I am here for the madness.
Yeah, this film definitely is that. First and foremost,
I know you brought it up, but why? Why?
Well, I'll definitely get to that when we get started. But yeah, I'll get the boring stuff out of the way, and then we can really dive into whatever this was. So first off, BlokeBusters stuff. If you want to find us anywhere, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at BlokeBusters. You can email us, theblokes@blokebusters.com. You can go to blokebusters.com. It's lovely there. You can go to allportsopen.com, and it's a lovely little website there with every other podcast on our network. So many fine people there. Do go check them out. If you want to support us in any sort of monetary way, not saying you should, but you should, we do have a Patreon at BlokeBusters. There's not much there at the moment because, well, I haven't had time to flesh it out. But
boy, ain't that the truth?
Yeah,
Keeps on slipping into the future.
Yeah, even just $1 a month would just help keep the lights on. So yeah, if you are so inclined and you have the disposable income, please do consider that. But anyway, getting to this wonderful film, directed by Steven Kostanski, who, if you actually try and look him up, you will only find Astron 6, which is a Canadian film production and directing company. And they kind of almost direct by committee, although that's not actually sort of 100% correct. There are some films that they've done where all of them direct. There are some films they've done where one or two of them direct, and in this case it was solely Steven Kostanski that did it, and a budget of I don't know, and this actually did have a box office. It was released in 2020. It was going to premiere at South by Southwest in March of 2020. However, something happened, and so therefore it didn't. But then it was screened later that year through the online festival. It was Beyond Fest that they did, and then it was released in cinemas and on video on demand on January 22nd of this year, and it had a box office officially of $95,384. So, yeah, obviously, if it had been released, let's say in January of 2020, I feel like it probably would have made a bit more than that. But we can get into why in a minute. But yes, probably should talk about why this film. And really, genuinely, the reason why this film is that I found out it existed.
Yeah.
And I was like, that sort of seems perfect. Why the hell not? Why wouldn't I want to watch this and then talk about it? It felt very much, looking at the trailer, definitely a different feel, but still had that vibe of Turbo Kid. I don't know if you've seen Turbo Kid, but
I kind of recall.
Yeah, that film was really cool. Definitely sort of... That one was a love letter to the sort of retro style, but also, like, really its own thing. Whereas this felt, just from the trailer anyway, this felt like it was almost a parody and love letter and just balls to the wall of the 80s almost C-movie horror films. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to talk about this one. So what was your introduction to Psycho Goreman?
I seen a trailer at random, and I was like, my kids act stupid like this. So this is something my kids might want to watch, because it seemed like very meme-ish to me. Like, you can meme a lot of things from this film. You know, that's just based on the trailer. Then it kind of gave me like, Power Ranger vibes and stuff.
Yes.
You know, the costumes and everything. Only thing I didn't see was make my monster grow. You know? And I was just like, fuck it, I'll take a chance and sit down and watch it with the cheering. And they were laughing their heads off while I was sitting there like, how does this even exist?
Yeah, it really does straddle that line of, like, it just the right amount of campy, like, you just sort of go with it-ness.
Yeah, that little girl got on my nerves.
Oh, yeah, I mean, one of the first things that I sort of noticed, but it took me, I think, the longest to click in my head, is that the girl in this, and I couldn't get an age. I don't think they officially said how old she was, but I would wager she couldn't have been more than like 12 at the very most. Like, it's probably more like 10. But she felt like Cartman in this. Like, just the level of pure insanity and just like disregard for anyone else. This thing, it was like, yeah, this kid is just Cartman. And she almost does it better than Cartman does, at least in this bit.
It was just something about her delivery that was just kind of like, I want to reach through the screen and put my hands around her neck. But I think that was the intent, so I mean, they did their job.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And actually, one thing that, even though it's definitely played as a joke, and it even becomes a massive plot point later in the film, but the whole thing about Crazy Ball and just the insane rules and everything, it's like, my daughter is 4 years old, and this is the sort of stuff that she does. She'll just throw this stuff out. It's like, no, this is how we're playing it, and you have to do this, and then this, and this. It's like, wow, they nailed that.
Yeah. I, too, as a child, had tangled in the occult magic and did all kinds of manner of debauchery to entertain myself.
Yeah, it can be very interesting.
Us giving it words and giving it power through this podcast is not doing it justice. You have to begrudgingly put eyes on this thing.
Yes.
Mind-blowingly enough, you know, just looking at the stats on this thing, freaking 6.2 out of 10 from IMDb, 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, 67 on Metacritic. This is all over 50% ratings. So, I mean, it's not one of those bottom of the barrel films that you see getting like 30% and 20% and even 6s and 9s from what I've seen in some instances.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I can tell, one of the only like genuinely negative reviews of this actually came from someone from RogerEbert.com who gave it 1.5 stars. And it's like even though they were not too glowing about this film, they still could have rated it a lot worse. Like, Yeah, a website where you'd expect there to be some like serious critical like, critiques of the film and things like that. Like you wouldn't expect a film like this to fare that well on it. And 1.5 stars. I can see the stuffed shirts over at RogerEbert.com giving it that. But yeah, I mean, like I think this film, if the whole crazy ball thing doesn't get you in the opening, the thing that really will tell you if you're willing to go for the ride in this is upon losing Crazy Ball, the older brother Luke is made to dig a hole to bury himself in at the behest of Mimi, and the hole that he digs is, I mean, it's as if a meteor had smashed into their garden.
Yeah,
it's
and
insane.
then it's kind of weird because in that scene, he dug that hole, huge hole, looked like he had a backhoe to use it to do such a thing, like you were saying. That's when they find the trinket. So
Yes.
How long had the trinket been there? I know they might have discussed it in the movie, but honestly, Paul, usually, when you ask me to do these things, or I even volunteer in some instances, that I do my research to an extent. I might watch the movie twice. I might watch it a third time with the director's commentary if I actually own the Blu-ray or something like that. But this film was fire and forget. I watched it that one goddamn time with my kids, and I never put my mind on it again. So you had to fill in some holes for me there, guy.
No, understandable. I will say that I don't believe they ever specify the exact amount of time, and the only people that would know are that weird council, the Planetary Alliance or whatever they call themselves, and even if they would have thrown it out, it would have been some weird name for the the length of time that we wouldn't understand, because
you got to imagine that it's been a long time, because there's there was no signs of disturbances in their yard before they dug. I mean, there's a whole neighborhood surrounding this thing, houses and trees and everything on top of it, so it had to be there for a long time to predate even this cul-de-sac.
Yes, yeah, I'm assuming it was one of those things of he was thrown down on a primitive world, deep in the ground, and now all of a sudden he's come out. And yeah, it's one of the interesting things in this is they didn't even attempt to give you a maybe she is she falls on it and it imbues her with the power or things like no, they just flat out basically went, this girl picks up this gem that she won because she won a game of her own inventing, and that just gives her full power over this insane ancient murderous monster from the stars. And I honestly am having a little bit of trouble trying to explain the humor in this, because it's almost as if it's sort of Monty Python-esque in a way.
It's very as if.
Yeah. It's there is some sort of Monty Python-esque elements to it, in as far as the crux of it seems to land on the fact that nobody is taking it seriously. So
even after the dig scene and everything, he crawls up out of the ground and search for the jewel and whatnot, and I have it actively playing in the background right now. So I'm at the scene to where he is revealing himself to the homeless people in the warehouse, and
yes,
they do not seem disturbed at all. It's just they're a little shaky, but they're not scared until that first guy gets bitch slapped across the daggone place.
Yeah, and he gets it easy, actually.
Yes,
that's the easiest thing that happens there anyway. But yeah, no, there's things that absolutely just make no sense, even if you are accepting that this guy is a random alien from space who has all of these psionic powers that he's able to basically do whatever the hell he wants. Okay, that's kind of fine. But the things like the two siblings have a conversation by knocking on the walls. Mm-hmm. And there is literally no rhyme, reason, connection whatsoever with the number of times they knock, like how they knock or anything like that. Like, they're able to have several back and forth, different length sentences in pretty much the same number of knocks each time. So
I don't even think that was Morse code at all.
No, it absolutely was not. There are several. I think there are a couple of times where it happened where there's like 3 knocks, but there's like 7 words said, and it's just like okay, we understand this is a stupid bit, but we're just using it to forward the plot. Mm-hmm. And some of the things in this is like, okay, clearly this is just in this just because. Like, probably the biggest thing for me is the fact that the alien is from the planet Gygax, and you will absolutely never be able to convince me otherwise that that was not a nod to Gary Gygax, the creator of D&D. Because this film very much feels like a dramatized session of Dungeons and Dragons or other similar tabletop role-playing game, because some of the things that happen in this is like that could only happen because somebody rolled a natural 20 or somebody failed utterly on a roll or something. So
right now the dad was attempting to fill in the hole and he got a splinter in his hand.
His hand is now useless. That was actually really interesting. Like, I thought that, given the nature of the film so far and everything, that the dad actually was one of the most interesting characters to me, because he was half an audience surrogate, because he actually kind of had one of the most natural reactions to anything in the entire film, which was, and I don't know if you will recall at this point, but there's a point where Psycho Goreman throws a flaming skull at the brother. It goes through the wall and then bounces off the wall behind the dad and smashes into the TV. And he's just like curls into a ball, just like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah. And then there's like, he actually sold the things that were going on around him, as to where everybody, even when their little buddy, their friend or whatever, get turned into like this pile of goo monsters blob thing, nobody bats an eye, not even the fucking parents.
No, absolutely. No, it's just this weird brain with giant brain with tentacles, and it's like that was another really strange thing to me. And like, seriously, anyone at this point that hasn't seen the film, like, please pause this and go and see it, because even though we're actually talking about it, I promise you we're not actually really spoiling this film for you.
No.
It is
complete and utter madness what we're saying. We're just like, he took a toke of his favorite recreational drug, so did I. Mm-hmm. We chased it with vodka or whatever strong spirits that you want to use, and then we just like workshopping this madness right now.
That really does kind of feel like you're in a writer's room with about 10 people and they're all coming up with different things. Like, no, this is all in the same film. All this stuff just decides to happen, I guess. I don't know. This film is so weird. The kid turning into that monster, the thing that I found funniest about that whole thing when that happened is that the girl Mimi basically was telling Psycho Goreman that she wants him to basically just be there for her whenever she wants him to be there and to do whatever she wants, and he turns him into this giant brain with tentacles. And her immediate response is to completely not acknowledge that this has happened, and to not say anything about, well, how is he going to do the things that, like, because she wanted someone to play basketball, I think, or baseball or something like that. Yeah. It's like, this brain could not play basketball or baseball at all. There's just no way that's happening. And she doesn't even admonish Psycho Goreman, or PG, as they call him, for somehow getting this entirely wrong. It's just like, yep, okay, that's just him now.
Or even when they discover the homeless guys that he decimated in the warehouse or whatever, they were scared, but they didn't yield a reaction that was fitting of what horrors they did see, because this dude was like frozen in place and his eyeballs were rolling around in his skull. The other one was filleted and displayed on the fence, and they were just like, ah.
Yeah, pretty much. It was fairly crap.
For all the slander we are giving this film, it is gory and just like bloody as hell. But it's just the way it's done is just like Sesame. You gave the characters from Sesame Street like real life guns.
It's a better Happy Time Murders or whatever the thing was.
It was more adult Power Rangers. Like I said,
there
before.
you go. Yeah, absolutely. And yet the guy that was basically flayed and strung up, and for the life of me, I cannot place it. What is the horror film with the Cenobites, with the box, the puzzle box? And,
the Hellraiser.
Hellraiser, yes, yeah. Like just that single square of the warehouse was just like, that's the Hellraiser section where that guy has been torn apart. And yeah, you see it, I think once or twice, just some quick shots, and then that's gone. And yeah, the guy who's frozen with his eyes going back, and like Psycho Goreman basically going on this rant about how he will he will forever be in torment, and then he just gets knocked over, shatters, and then the mouth by itself just goes, thank you. I genuinely think the people that were making this film had about a 3-sentence idea for something which is just, Psycho Goreman, terror from skies, controlled by psychopathic 9-year-old. And
there you go.
That's pretty much all they had, all they needed, and they just went for it. I mean, like, there's, for no reason, genuinely no reason whatsoever, they throw in a kind of too good to be in this film, or at least too good for the film. It could have been a lot worse. Music video.
Yeah. /
song play. And it's catchy. It's actually a catchy song, and they don't do too bad of performing it. And it even just kind of comes back at the end, which I do have to say, I did love at the end of this film. There's a point where Luke, the brother, is asking Mimi for an apology. Like, that's literally all he wants, and he'll probably do whatever she says. And her response to that is to sing this song again. And if you listen to the song, it's basically her saying that, screw you, I want to do whatever I want. You can't tell me what to do.
Mm-hmm. and that's pretty much the basis of this whole freaking movie. That this controlling little girl made this stupid, obnoxious game so she can always be right and win the psycho ball or whatever the hell, crazy ball. And, she just ultimately gets her way this whole time and gets people to do whatever the hell she wants. The dad does what she wants. The mom gives her some lip back, but she still gets what she wants. And now she got control over this big, wet, moist monster man.
Yeah.
It does whatever she wants because she got the stone and everything. And you think it would boil down to like, oh, she learned the error of her ways, and she can't be controlling over everybody, and she got to learn that she can't control everything. But that's not what the fuck she learned.
And there was
so
one
much,
point in this.
There's so much. But like, what I really want to know is, because I want to see if we're on the same wavelength here. What is your favorite line or favorite part of this movie? That's all I want to know.
That's a good one. You know, I think my favorite bit in this film, and it's because it goes on for the exact right amount of time, and it's just the right level of it's insane but funny, is the "come and find me" scene, when Psycho Goreman is yelling to the father, like, come find me, and then it just kind of, it's a horrifying scene for the dad, and then the dad's just like, oh okay, but where are you? And then he just comes back and just gives him full-on directions on how to come and find the injured Psycho Goreman. And I think, genuinely, I think that's probably my favorite bit from the entire film. Although I think also the biggest groaner for me, kind of giving you the converse there, is I genuinely believe that they named the mother Susan so that they could have the line, "How's this for lazy, Susan?" in the film. Because, that was like, oh, I see what you did there.
Well, indulge me. Is a lazy Susan like a thing somewhere? Because I'm missing.
It is, yes. Basically, a lazy Susan, for those people who do not know what they may have in their kitchen, and you've probably seen this and just never thought about it. You know those corner cabinets that you can get? Generally, it'll be like the kitchen sink, and then it kind of goes off and it's a corner.
Yeah.
But there's a cabinet down below, and instead of having a door that opens, it rotates. It spins around, and that's a lazy Susan. That's a lazy Susan type thing. Like, it used to be referred to as only there would be a board on the countertop, and then it would spin around. Like, generally you'd put things like appetizers, or if you had snacks or stuff, like, it would be on that, and you could like have it in the middle of a table at parties, and it would just rotate around.
Something very pinky like. You would have your pinky out when you're using this thing.
Yeah, but now, at least in modern America, when you're talking about a lazy Susan in a kitchen, it is referring to those rotating cabinets.
Very well.
Yes,
and this has been your kitchenary delights.
Yes, indeed, and definitely the reason I know this is we just had our kitchen remodeled, so we have two of those in our kitchen right now.
Double lazy Susans.
Yes, definitely makes your life easier if you have one of those things, because you're not going to be doing that deep reach into the cupboards to try and grab something.
Mm-hmm. All right,
but yeah, okay. So what was your favorite bit in this film then?
It is two different bits, but it's all the same thing. Okay. There's a point to where like she's under his control. I mean, he is under her control because she has the jewel, the stone, the parallax crystal, or whatever the fuck. So she tells him to shut the hell up and sit down in the warehouse till they come back. So he can't do anything but sit on this little bucket in the warehouse, and around him was some guy magazines or whatever it was.
Yes.
And he was like, he was just looking at the guy magazine. He was like, I forget what the exact lines were, but it was just like, I don't know, is this turning me on? Because I think it is, or some shit like that. And then later on in the film, they daggone the magazines get destroyed. He's like, no, not my magazine.
Yes, I remember. Yes, I believe they are bringing him I think it's an old school TV, and they apologize for not having any porn for him, but they do have magazines with hunky boys.
Yes,
and yes, he looks at the magazines and he's just like, I have no interest in these hunky boys, and then he just kind of like, or do I?
He's like, not my hunky boy.
Yes, that's right. I mean, that was a solid joke right there. Like, I do appreciate that they just They obviously threw it in because it is just objectively funny that they would just bring him this magazine and just be like, well, here's some some nice looking men. Here you go. And him actually just be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, they're also assuming what he like. So
I genuinely, this film bounces all over the place, so I feel like that's what we're doing too. But
yes,
I enjoy it.
So right now it's playing in the background, and they're at the council on the other planet and everything, and they talk about Psycho Goreman and how he's this and that, and they got to go get him. So one thing that I was not expecting was when she assumed the form of the lady that they got from Earth. Yes. So they beam her in there, they teleport her in there somehow, and then she is, encased in this glowing cube. And then the cube just goes from like full size to like miniature and squishes her and turns her into a meatball. I mean, a meat square. And yeah, and I was just like, I was not expecting that at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting take as well, because it is this thing of they're clearly supposed to be the good guys, and yet the person that they have as kind of the head of these people has absolutely no qualms whatsoever to just destroying a random human so that she can go about and get rid of this evil. And obviously the common take on that would be like, if you're going to prevent mass genocide by Psycho Goreman, then what is one life, especially given the end of this thing. But it's interesting to see that, and it really does make you look at it and go like, okay, I'm not sure I am behind this one, behind Pandora, I believe the name was, to do that. And and
it's just crazy.
One thing
is on my part right now.
Uh-huh.
I have no interest in hunky boys. Yeah, I don't care for hunky boys. Then it's zooming in.
Yes.
Or do I?
Yeah.
It's just hilarious.
Yeah, it's so well, like the pacing and the shots in that are perfect, like absolutely done well. But yeah, I have to give them props actually. Like we talked about a lot of the stuff that's in this, and you've mentioned it briefly as well. And like we say, it's like an adult Power Rangers type thing. Like obviously told from a different point of view, and with technically the bad guy winning. Yes. But still, it's kind of like that, and the costumes, the design, like everything that goes into this, especially given that it wasn't made on a typical studio budget. Mm-hmm.
I believe that's, if they spent money on this thing, this is what they spent the money on, the costume work, because it was the most elaborate thing throughout the whole film. Because I mean, and the CGI that they used for like the otherworldly planet and whatnot. But it's just like they literally didn't do anything extravagant outside of the outer space elements. They were just in the woods. There was in a warehouse. There was at their house. And, there was just like in the woods again. So, I mean, they weren't really doing shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like all of the costumes for want of a better term, just to lump them together, aliens, they were all amazing.
Did you throw your hands out there when you said that? Aliens.
Yeah, I had to style my hair up in a thing for that. But, yes, like just the pure design of some of these things, like the one that was basically a witch, effectively, like one of the best looking ones there. There's one that was like, I guess, just a robot that had a robot bird on his shoulder, and he was the only one that Psycho Goreman always assumed would just betray him.
Yeah. Then you had the brain in the glass jar and shit. And
yeah, and I couldn't figure out, like,
You had one that looked like the Grinch if you pulled all his green fur off. And that was like one of the main ones that was talking all the time.
You did indeed, yes. A guy like the guy that had the crown very much looked like a typical lich again from Dungeons and Dragons. So I think that's where a lot of the inspiration probably started. And at least for some of those designs, and they just kind of ran with it. But yeah, like the actual, like, if we're going beat for beat, the general plot, if you know anything about how these films work, like, you sort of knew some of the beats that were coming. So, for instance, the fact that he says at one point, I don't understand how they, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, yeah, I don't know how they were able to overpower me, like how they were able to overcome me. And you find out that his entire force of generals basically were like, yeah, we'll sell him out so that we can control a single moon of this planet that we were on. And as a collective unit. But yeah, like, so you saw that was coming, although that actually does remind me of another one of my favorite little bits in this, the sort of mutated policeman. Yeah. Who's just, he just wants to kill himself and he can't. Like that, I love that. Like the whole thing of him just being, look, what, he's just a mindless drone now, and it's like, no, like, it's clearly still in there, and he doesn't want to live anymore, but he can't kill himself. The
little boy in there is fixing the TV, and he's not turned into the gelatinous pile of flesh stuff yet.
Yeah, yes, that I believe that from roughly where you are, that's probably in about 10 minutes, I think. But yeah, no,
it would be nicer if you were dead.
So I mean, some of the dialogue in this, like, it's just so brilliantly done, and it really is just the juxtaposition of some of the things in it. So in the scene, actually, when Alistair, I believe is the name of the kid that gets transformed, when he gets transformed, and then the parents come out and they meet Psycho Goreman, and Mimi is just saying, like, yeah, he's fine, I can control him, like, yeah, he's not going to hurt you, and he says, it's like, I will kill you. And she's obviously just playing it off for laughs, like, oh, he's so funny. But, like, the juxtaposition that they do with that, and they, like, and obviously the girl is, as I said before, insane.
Yeah, because when they went back to visit him in the warehouse for the first time, when they brought the TV and stuff, he was like, he jumped at her and he was about to get her, and she was like, huh? Okay, all right, we good. You know? Yeah. She was like scared for a second, but when she realized that she was in control and had power over him, she's like, da 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 da.
Yeah, and it is something like, I don't know, like, the guy that portrayed Psycho Goreman, like, in terms of the body, was Matthew Nienaber, and the voice is a guy called Stephen Vlahos. I'm assuming I'm saying that right. It's Vlahos. But, like, the journey that he goes on from just, like, wanting to kill everyone and just being forced to listen to this girl to genuinely caring. Yeah. So, like, it's actually really well done, and it's definitely one of the things that surprised me most about this is that, like, they actually make you believe that this guy sort of came to understand that, like, what love was by the end, and like, is when he spoilers for anyone to say, when he gets his powers back at the end, he actually agrees to let them live and to, like, not harm them because he has grown to really like them. And actually, I thought that was a fun end to the film, and like I think at this point we definitely should talk about the end, because like he spends most of the film talking about how when he gets his powers back, when he's able to leave, he is going to go back to conquering the galaxy, and like that's it. Like he's gonna destroy the council that we've seen. He's gonna go and pillage the galaxy. And at the end, he's like, I will let you live. I will go now. And then I was expecting him to go back and destroy the council and all that. Nope, he just goes to what appears to be the next town over.
Yep.
He just starts wreaking havoc on Earth, and yeah, like you get to see like the TV reports of this giant naked purple man going around destroying buildings and killing everyone, and again, everyone that's watching this just seems to be like, oh well, yeah, that's the news.
It's just another day in the hood.
Yeah. And yeah, the scene over the credits when you just saw Alistair like coming to the dinner table as the brain, and they're just all eating and no one's saying anything, and it's like oh okay, yep. Like even Alistair's parents either, and it's the genuine question, which is worse? They either have just gone, yeah, okay, that's him now, or they haven't noticed.
Yeah. You can't really tell which is which.
No, absolutely. They are just. It's one of those things where it's like the stereotypical. Oh, the parents are just so indifferent. They're probably all wrapped up in their own lives. They don't know. But given what this film is, they also could have just been like, oh, yeah, you didn't bring your shoes home. Like, yeah, as he crawls back as a brain, it's like we pay good money for those. Oh well, like. Yeah, I have no clue. But yeah, I guess, genuinely, I didn't think this review would be as long as this.
No. Not my hunky boys. I'm seeing the scene now.
Yeah, I mean, like this film, I kind of don't want to spend too much more time talking about it, just because I want as many people to see this as possible. Just because,
yeah, because we won't do it any justice if we went through it minute by minute and described everything that we saw.
Yeah, no, and I promise you, everything that we've talked about, even though you know about it, like
it'll still shock and surprise you, just the visual of it, because this is audio.
Yeah. I mean, like. The visuals of this film absolutely make it. I mean, there's so much in this where it's like they have an incredibly schlocky dialogue throughout. They have a plot that is not, it's not something that you've never seen before. It's not out there, but it is definitely a good mix of independent filmmaking with homages and that sort of feel of the old school 80s horror.
And the warrior's death is rough.
but yeah, like it's just like the right tone. Like, and obviously there are people that this film is absolutely not for. And if you are not a fan of I mean, I'll say horror films. There's definitely a horrifying element to this. If you're not a fan of sci-fi, especially the sort of B-movie-esque sci-fi, and if you're not a fan of
shenanigans,
I mean, yeah, I mean there is gore in this. I mean, it's not to the extent of, let's say,
there's gore, man.
Indeed, yes. Yeah, it's not something where like you're seeing someone's intestines being pulled out and it's super realistic or anything like that. But there are definitely aspects in this that are very well done, and some of the blood is clearly just water that's been dyed red, and yet some of the things look somewhat realistic. So there's going to be a level to it where some people won't be able to stomach it, but No, like absolutely. This film, it needs to be seen by everyone that is willing to watch it. Basically, if you see the trailer and you go, like, even if you're just like, "Oh, that seems interesting," you'll enjoy it. Like, you know, they did a good job with the marketing of it. But yeah, like it's so weird, so cool, and also the one thing that I didn't bring up yet, which again kind of surprised me in this, because I am absolutely not someone for whom the audio is a big thing. The soundtrack to this is really good. I don't know who they got to do it. I could not find that out before we recorded. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that it was either in-house or, you know, possibly someone that they knew, like the people that created this film. They might have known someone that they were just like, hey, do you want to just kind of do this with us? Because most of it, if not all of it, is definitely not a high ticket item in when it comes to music. But the audio for this definitely works fantastically. As we were just saying, the visuals, this film needs to be seen to be believed, definitely. And yeah, like it is something where, like, trust me, you'll I mean, unless you absolutely hate any of the genres that I just said, like, you will be happy that you've seen it. Whether or not you're going to watch it again is the question, but you will be happy that you've seen this film.
I think you hit all the wickets, my man.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you had anything else you wanted to bring up, but
it is Psycho and it is Goreman.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And as one counter says, it's a good name. Mm-hmm. And yeah, go watch it to find out who said that. But yeah, I mean, I think we should just leave it there
yes.
because otherwise we'll just be going even more around in circles.
Yes, it's no Scott Pilgrim or the Losers, but it'll do.
Oh no, yes, it's not going into my top 10 films of all time. But this is definitely one of those films that I absolutely would be willing to sit down and watch this again. Like, yeah, if I have some friends around, and
I've tortured myself for an hour and 35 minutes and 58 seconds, so now it's your turn.
Yeah, it's like if my daughter is not around and I have some friends around for 2 hours, like, I will throw this on and be like, you guys need to see this.
As you slowly back out of the room and lock the door.
It's all the exits are barred, and I have the only remote, so there we go. No, yes, I think that has to be it.
Yes.
Like I said, we'll just be repeating ourselves if we go any further into it. So yeah, with all of that complete rambling that was in there for all this, like, seriously, my end comment on it is just, please see this film. You really need to. But yes, after all that, obviously jumping over to you, Mr. B-Rob, where can people find you if they wish to do so?
You can find me on the wonderful world of Twitter at 3R Show. Also, you can see me wander the wizarding halls of Walmart on Instagram at the 3R Show. And if you're interested in anything else I do, like the podcast, The Random Rambles with Rob, you can find all the information pertaining to on randomrob.com.
Yes, absolutely. And if you go there, you might hear a familiar voice and see a familiar voice, depending on which one you go to. Yes, and I believe I hold the record for longest episode, based on at least on YouTube. I have not gone through your entire back catalogue of audio episodes, but I can't imagine There's many out there that are longer.
You have the longest YouTube episode, indeed. I think you are in second place out of 280 something episodes, maybe 290 as of right now episodes. You are in second place for the second longest episode ever.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, you only had me on to ask one question.
I asked you one question, and it took almost 3 hours to get the answer.
It did. So next time, have 2 questions for me, and I'll beat that. I'll get that.
I'll have a phrase, and I'll get your thoughts on the phrase. I don't think I can ask you a question.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, we'll come up with something. No, yeah, I definitely need to come back on.
Yes.
Maybe next year. Like, give your audience a break, and then have me back on for more random ramblings again.
Very well, it's a date.
But yes, thank you for coming back on and doing this sort of relatively mini review based on how ours normally go. But yeah, no, I think I think we definitely covered everything we need to with that. And
watch the damn movie
if you want. Yeah, absolutely watch it. Yes, for those of you that didn't listen to me the first time, again, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, BlokeBusters. You can email us at blokes@blokebusters.com. Please do reach out and let us know what you thought of this film, what you thought of this episode, what you thought of any episode or any film that we covered, or if you have anything that you want to cover. Just please reach out, let me know, and chances are I'll end up doing it, as long as it's not Grease, because hell no, I'm not doing that film.
I watched Psycho Goreman freaking 30 times before I watch one Grease.
Yeah, no, I watched it enough when I was a kid, and now that I have full control over what I watch, when my daughter's not awake, then yes, I refuse. That's all I would say. I refuse. But yeah, seriously, do reach out. Let me know anything that you might want us to watch and review, and we'll get back to you. But once again, as always, with all that being said, I've been Paul.
I've been Rob.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Now my hunky boys.
In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Hang on a minute, lads. I've got a great idea.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.